Hello, this is Dr. Selena Pina. Welcome to CVAMS Allen Pulse, the Cape Verdean Health Dialogue Podcast, Episode 7, Conversations with Primary Care Providers on the Challenges and Benefits in the Primary Care Practices. We are pleased to present this series embodies the principles of integrative healthcare. This year, our focus has been the impact on stress and exploring techniques for managing and calming our nervous system. And today, we are happy to introduce you to Dr. Madeline Tully, Dr. Chantal Gomes, Dr. Layla Blake, and we are hoping to have Dr. Elizabeth Gomes join us, but she's had a very busy schedule today, so we will hope that she can make an appearance. So I thought we would just probably just get started and you can make a brief introduction of yourselves. And I thought we would start with Dr. Tully. And perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and something that you want to share about yourself that you find is intriguing or inspiring or fun. Because, we always look at you doctors as such serious human beings, and there must be something fun about you guys. So, Dr. Tully, will you begin?
You. Yes, my name is Madeline Tully. I am now in my 23rd year as a family practice attending. I graduated from medical school in the year 2000. I practice in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at a federally qualified community health center that has integrated behavioral health. And it's been just invaluable to my practice and also to me personally. And I'll say something kind of fun about myself is I am in at any given time numerous book clubs. I currently have a sci-fi fantasy book club and then a micro book club that is myself and two other women where we pick books that are written by women who are in essentially the diaspora, and we talk about them. And I'm fourth generation Cape Verdean and attempting to learn. Well, I am learning, but very slowly. I'm learning Creole.
So how do you say
Yay.
hello in Creole?
Creole, yes.
How do you say
How do I
Creole?
say it? Oh. Bom dia. Boa tarde, boa noite.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Excuse
And if
me.
you're in Praia, you say Modi que está.
Molde que está.
Yeah.
You got,
But if you're in São Vicente, you say como que
oh, and you
está.
got the dialects down too. You're
You
doing
got all the islands.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Um, I thought we would go to Dr. Layla Blake, and if you could give us the same.
Okay, so let's see. I'm 25 years practicing family medicine. Finished my residency in 2000. I practice also at a FQHC, Federally Qualified Health Center on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, which is my original community. I went to high school here and kind of serving in the same community where I sort of grew up, part of my early life. I recently came back from Cape Verde, my second trip to Cape Verde, first one with the Cape Verdean American Medical Society. Wonderful experience, enjoyed it tremendously. I speak Portuguese, but not Creole, so I am also learning Creole, and it's not been easy because I learned Portuguese thinking I could get around it, but I have to learn Creole. People were looking at me with a blank stare when I spoke to them in Portuguese sometimes. So I've got to do that work. Yeah, and so family medicine, I'm loving this organization, loving what I do, loving the fellowship that I have with my primas, and looking forward to this podcast and, see what comes out of it. And I'm
Okay.
happy to be here.
And what's something fun about you?
Something fun. Okay. Well, my kids wouldn't say it's something fun. They'd call it gross. But I like to make kombucha and grow
Oh,
sprouts.
you're
So at
good
any
at
given moment, I might
this.
have something on my countertop that someone would look at askance and say, "What is that? And
Okay,
why
that's
does it
very
smell like that?"
sci-fi. Very sci-fi. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, look at
So
connection.
I like to grow things. I just like to see something start off as a little seed and see where it goes from there. It may go nowhere, but just to watch something grow from a seed to me is amazing, and it's the circle of life.
It's a circle of life. I love that. That's beautiful. And I have to say that I was a little jealous and brava with your Portuguese overstanding my Creole.
Why?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
You did well in Portuguese. I mean,
Well, so,
patients seem to understand you.
people will understand depending on their educational level and what type of education they have. They may understand 30%, they may understand 90%, but I wouldn't understand them. So for a really good back and forth, the Creole is, where it's going. Because
Mhm.
I just to get into the groove of the culture and everything else, I feel like it's really necessary. And I've enjoyed taking lessons with Gamal, and I've just been enjoying the whole process. I'm sitting out the summer though, because Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock is like a prime time. I'm either sleeping in because I'm wasted for the whole week, or there's some graduation or something else going on. So I've taken the summer off, but I promise to join Gamal again in the fall.
Very good. And I have saved all of those um, recordings for Dr. Chantel Gomes, which I'll send to her
Very good.
in time so she can
Mhm.
work on her Creole as well.
Good.
It's okay. Chantel, tell us a little bit about you and what's the fun thing about you?
I'll say my name's Chantel Gomes, but I should say my full name since my mother's here. So I'll say Chantel Michelle Vanilla Pina Gomes.
A very Cape Verdean name, okay?
Very Cape Verdean.
You gotta speak up, Chantel.
Yeah.
So I am a baby attending. It's my fourth year out of residency now. I am in a community-based clinic in Hollywood that was initially an entertainment industry office. So I work with a lot of SAG Directors Guild and motion pictures patients. Um, I would say the fun thing is I like to travel. In the last 5 months, I've been to several Caribbean islands, St. Kitts, Dominican Republic, and I also went snowboarding in Colorado, and then I will be in Portugal in July. So that's
Very nice.
And you'll be on Martha's Vineyard
in
in
August.
August. Okay. Her name is Chantal Michelle Vanilla Pina Gomes. Chantal was supposed to be Selena, but I thought that would be narcissistic, so I changed it to Chantal since her father's he's Cape Verdean, but he was raised in Senegal. Michelle is also her father's name, Michelle. Vanilla is my grandmother's name, who is my guiding light. And Pina is our family name, and Gomes is her father's family name. So it's a blessing, and she has angels all around her. So there we go. Let's start a little bit here with primary care. So what are some of the challenges and rewards that you see in primary care in the years that you've been working?
So
Anyone can start.
I'll start.
So
Can you hear me?
if
No. Go
from this side of it, 22 years in, I like the image of a tree. And I have had families that have been with me since the beginning of my career. And so I've seen sometimes fourth generations because I'll start with. We'll say the mother, and then she'll bring in her mother. So I have the grandmother, and then I'll have the daughter, and then I have the children. My first 4 years, I delivered babies, and so there's a few families still with the young adults now that I delivered them, and that's such an incredibly special relationship, and that depth of the understanding and the depth of the trust is something that's absolutely invaluable. And I'm a little afraid in the current atmosphere of practice that physicians, primary care physicians, are going to kind of follow other types and only be at a place 3, 4, 5 years and then move to another place. Because I think that's just when things are getting good. When you've been there, you know them, you've been
They
through a few
trust you.
things,
Hmm.
they trust you. I'm very much rooted in my community. I grew up here in Milwaukee, and actually, I'm practicing in the neighborhood that was my father's family neighborhood. It was an Irish Catholic neighborhood, and now it's an African American neighborhood. But literally, his generations, my roots go back to that very neighborhood. So I feel really invested in here in my community.
Very
You know,
nice. What do you see as some of the challenges?
well, there's the perennial challenge of patient access. And so seeing everybody who needs to see me in a day. And that also drives everybody's least favorite word, at least my least favorite word, which is productivity, because it makes it sound like we're factory workers. These are not widgets, they're human beings. And so there's always a tension and a stress. So I feel like there's always the struggle. There's the administrative struggle of wanting to have the providers, because I'm now a provider, see as many patients as possible, and to be as streamlined as possible in the practice. And then my desire to have some autonomy and to be able to have flexibility in how I spend my day. So there's those things are it's always the yin and the yang. And I've seen it, there's like, okay, we got to see everybody, and then everybody gets burned out, and then we see fewer people, then, oh my God, we can't make any money, and we're not really meeting the community needs. And then and it's there's always you're always somewhere on the continuum of how that goes. And so I show up every day with my full range of abilities, with my best effort, and I do a lot for myself to try to combat the burnout, because
We're gonna go
it's
to that later. Don't start. Don't go all the way to the end. Thank you so much, Madeline. Chantal, I know you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me though? Yeah.
Yeah, can you go? You can't go volume a little higher?
Okay.
No?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you should speak a little
Um,
louder then.
okay. I was gonna say that the good parts about primary care is basically that you're kind of not only there to like solve problems and be the mystery solver for your patient, but also advocate for them. I think that's super powerful and very rewarding. Like just taking a patient that just went to cardiology, realizing that they didn't understand what the cardiologist said and they actually weren't following the instructions, and being able to make that small of a difference is just as rewarding as saving a life. So I do think that's like one of the really nice parts of primary care. And then just to piggyback on what Madeline said or Dr. Tully said is basically, I think the demand, we have a huge demand for need, and the growing population of older individuals, there's a lot of care, but then we have a shortage of physicians. That's leading to burnout, but then also I think it's also affecting patients and how they're feeling rushed through appointments, even when we're not intending to make them feel rushed. I think that's the downside.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chantal. You're breaking up just a little bit. I just don't want you to lose you. Dr. Blake, what are your comments on challenges and rewards?
So I think the rewards are, they call us family physicians cradle to grave. So we're able to see people from the beginning to the end. And, there's a beauty in being able to be there at the beginning when someone's starting their family and bringing new children into the world. But also there's a beauty to being there at the end and being able to provide the kind of care for people at the end of life. We're not as involved, I think, as we used to maybe be 10, 20, 30 years ago when we were going to people's homes and attending deaths and maybe being in the hospital when they would die. So the system has changed a lot in the last few decades. Now there's hospitalists and there's hospice, which is a great thing. I'm glad that there's hospice now because they have additional training to be able to help them usher people into their transition. So, but oftentimes we're the ones making the diagnosis of a, catastrophic medical illness that's going to take someone's life. And how
Mm.
you handle that makes, I think, all the difference in the world. So it's a place of honor, I feel, that I find myself in. The frustrations, the barriers, the challenges. I think really, if I really think about it, come down to the business of medicine.
Mm,
And,
mm,
like Madeline said, having to see a certain number of patients in a day. Because at the end of the day, when I'm sitting there and I'm listening to my patients who maybe lost a son recently, I had a patient this week. She lost her son to a fentanyl overdose.
mm,
I've had patients who, maybe it's not an important thing, but maybe their pet died recently. They just want somebody to talk to. And people come in, this is one of the things that I think about on a regular basis is people will come in, I don't want to use the word angry, but they're anxious, they're upset for whatever reason, they're stressed, maybe they're upset with the front desk, they're taking it out on them. I bring them back and I just listen to them. I don't have a magic wand. I don't do anything that's making a major significant difference, except I'm listening to them. And I think there's so much disconnection nowadays that people want to be heard and they want to feel understood. That's universal. We want that in all aspects of our life. So when you listen to somebody and you really put yourself in their shoes and empathize with what they're going through and you're able to communicate that to them effectively, I think it makes a huge difference
Mhm.
in what's happening in that person's life. And they understand you can't work miracles. They understand you can't cure the cancer sometimes. You can't bring somebody back and their family that they've lost. But just knowing that you care, you've made the time for them, even if they had to wait, they know that you're giving them the same amount of time you gave the person before them that made them late. So from that aspect, I think family medicine, I don't know that I would necessarily choose a different specialty if I went into medicine again. If I had it to do over, I would probably choose family medicine again. But the business side of it, and I understand the need because there's so many people, fewer people are going into primary care because it's a lot of debt we come out of from medical school, and we make less than most specialties. So I understand the rub and the difficulty. And, I think as primary care physicians, we need to be advocates for the students that are in medical school now and students even before them that haven't even gone into the professional schools to say, primary care needs to, people going into primary care across the board need loan forgiveness. You know, it's just, I
Absolutely.
am 59 years old.
God bless
Okay.
you. You look wonderful.
Thank you. I just finished paying off my student loans last year.
Wow.
If I retire at 65, which I don't know that might wait that long, but if I retire at 65, I only finish paying off my student loans 4 years before I retire.
Mm.
It's crazy. And I probably didn't even have as much as the students coming out now because I finished med school in 97,
Oh, wow.
you know? So we need to revamp the system and we really need to look at best practices in some of the countries that are doing it right. I
Mm.
think we are getting it wrong here in the United States. And we're the ones that need to be on Capitol Hill or here or there at the State House in
We're
Boston
stuck seeing patients. I mean, come on now. We don't get PTO like that.
Listen, when I'm retired, I will volunteer my services to go talk to legislators to say this. I know there are people doing it now. I'm not saying that no one's doing it,
I'm
but
being a little facetious, but
I
it's
know.
definitely, yeah, yeah. And I do, it's another plug for CVMS. I have been on boards for the Milwaukee County Medical Society and other medical organizations. And back in the day, 25 years ago, there was already somewhat of a shortage of physicians being out and doing things for the profession. And in the 70s, 80s, their physicians were doing a lot of stuff because they had more time in their day too. They had a lot more control over their schedules. They did not. They didn't have these productivity kind of things. It was just a whole different. It was a whole different world. And now it is extremely difficult because people are like, I have to spend time with my family.
Hmm.
I can see my patients and I can see my family. So with CVAMS in particular, I think has been a really unique and wonderful organization in that there's so many of us who are, physicians and also other, primary care and other type providers that are spending serious amounts of time with this organization, and it is feeding us as well. But it's a life, like if you were to do one of those, they do those time things where it's like, how do you spend every minute of your
Yes.
day? I try not to do that because I've spent a lot of my day, a lot of my life doing my job, and it's rewarding, but it's also a huge sacrifice.
Hmm.
It is a huge sacrifice, but there's something that's implanted inside of us that has brought us into the sacrifice, and to find it to be a passion, and to continue to find some type of balance in it. This is just something of our nature. Um, I believe, I mean, I know I put a lot of time into mine as well, and I think it's because it's our passion. And so it doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know about the younger generation, Chantel. How do you feel about that? How do you feel for the work-life balance?
I mean, I create my work. Like, can you hear? You can hear me. Right now,
Yeah.
I'm like contemplating. Okay. Yeah, I feel like I create a work-life balance. I work very hard at that, and I do think I admire both of you for how much time you spend. Like saying that you actually sit and will listen to stories is amazing. I definitely don't do that. Like I'll show empathy, but I definitely get in and get out, and like I make sure that my biggest thing is just trying to make sure what's wrong. So I don't spend a lot of time like doing that type of stuff, and I could do better at that. But I really enjoy my other work-life balance right now. I do not take any work home after 5:30. I have every weekend off. I don't have any patient notes, any of my chart after I go home at 5:30 or on the weekends. I'm only on call once a year. Um, I have 12 holidays, paid holidays, like about 3, 4 weeks of PTO, 2 weeks of educational time. So I think that's the
More
biggest
than me.
benefit for me. The biggest benefit for me in primary care is that I have an amazing work life balance that I don't think a lot of other specialties have. So I
Mhm.
think that's something that I enjoy about primary care. But I think I could do better at sitting and listening. And like you said, though, because the other patient waited, but thinking about my time and I can get home. And if I have kids, I want to be able to get home with them too. So I worry about that. Just going over those times and spending more time charting at the end of the day is
Well,
a downfall. Yeah.
can I say something to you, Chantal, about that? And that is that, you know, if you're 4 years out, I think that's what you said. You've been out for you've been practicing 4 years now. It takes time to find that balance, and it takes time to really get into the groove of how to cover all the bases. When you first get out, I remember when I first came out, I was in a private practice in Irving, Texas, and I just didn't want to make any mistakes. Like I didn't really have confidence in my decision making, and I didn't really have a lot of help. There were other people in the practice, but I really felt like I was just on my own. Um, and you know, full disclosure, that first year, somebody died. The only patient I've had that died, that I don't think I could have made a difference in it, but I did get sued.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was the only time I've ever been sued. And it really shook me in the sense that I was like, wow, like I always knew, you go through med school, you go through residency, you know that you can miss things. But when you're out there and there's really, you're the final stop of everything. And so when that happened, it really shook my confidence a lot. But give yourself some time, give yourself grace and some time to really get your sea legs under you, because you don't really, and you may end up in a completely different setting. You're not going to be probably in this role for your entire career. And when you get somewhere else, I've been in every setting of medical practice that you can be in: private practice, FQHC, which is community health center, academic. The only thing that I haven't done so far has been like federal work or military. And it's given me a confidence that I wouldn't have had 20 years ago. So give yourself grace from that standpoint and find where you're most comfortable in the sense of how much time you can spend. And sometimes you do, if somebody's coming in, and I don't want to say anybody's complaints are frivolous, but you'll learn where to spend the time and where not to spend the time.
I think that's really great to say that because like I could have just made it sound like I just want to be in and out, but that's not the case. Like I
I
want
bet, I
to,
bet it's
yeah.
not.
I think you just clarified it so well. Like I'm like, wait, but what is it? And like I'm like really trying to get to the bottom of it. So I don't have the time for the small talk because I'm like, but what if it's this? Like, what if it's giant cell arteritis? Or like
Right.
I'm just constantly like trying to figure it out, and like I'm worried to miss any minute. Like
Yeah.
I'll go over for that. Like you know what I mean? I'm going over for that, but like, and I'm usually going over for those things, trying to get to the bottom of it, or I'll have patients that are not mine coming in for like an urgent care visit, and I'm like, man, like this doctor hasn't worked. I just had one, like an African American guy. He's like 30s, hasn't he's had anemia, and the guy just keeps writing like the other doctor keeps writing like we'll repeat, and I'm like, he's a black male with anemia, like can't like I know he's here for STI.
Answer to
Can't,
prove it
I
otherwise.
can't ignore that. Like I can't ignore that. Like, And like that's where I'm like passionate. Like, and I didn't have time to add that. Like, but I just wanted to do it and I had to do it. Or another patient that kept coming with poorly controlled diabetes, and like they were here for a cold and it's not my patient, but I was like, oh my gosh, did you know your A1C is like 10? Like, let's
Yeah.
get this. Like, and I that's where I spend a lot of my time. And when I go over, that's what I'm going over. So like, I think you're right. Like once I become more confident and like,
Mhm.
all right, like you know what, they're maybe anxious. This concern is not something you need to keep working up this deep, and you just listen to them. Like I
Right.
think you're right. Like that's when I'll
Mm,
probably
So
be able to
once you
have
know
more.
somebody, then that's the thing. But you're still getting you're as I said, that's you're getting in the getting to know you. It gets very good right after where you're at because
Hmm.
you have these people coming back. You've turned that chaos into order. And that's what I feel like existentially, that's what I do. I take a chaotic situation and we bring some order to it. And I love that. I love that because it just brings down that whole sense of, I'm so scared, I'm so scared. And, and I can give you many, many stories of where, I'm the person who, I'm the hero. And I'm sure there's stories where I'm not the hero, where I have had a mote in my eye. I have missed, certain things. And another doctor had to come by with that patient and say, hey, this has been a little off for a long time and they need this and that. And the thing is, our population is getting sicker.
Yeah.
They're getting sicker younger.
hmm
And I am telling you, fatty liver is going to be the death of us. And that is something that's just coming on, and we can't do anything. There's no drugs for it yet. So that I don't want to talk about that in this in this context per se, but I'm starting to really, really see that. And so there's some things. That's a thing when you've been around long enough, you see things and you see the natural history of things that happen in your career.
Yeah.
And we've all been through now generation of the opiates and all the pain management and all of that. We were there for the beginning and the middle, and I don't know that it's definitely like this tail end. It's not gone away, but it's not the same crisis as it was 10, 15 years ago. So yeah, but yes, yeah, as if you stay in your current place and your patients stay, then you really get to know them and you get to have a deeper relationship with them.
Yeah. You get that sweet spot.
Mm, that's beautiful information, and that answers my next two questions in terms of changes that have occurred. And you two have just really illustrated that with Chantal, Dr. Gomes, very nicely. So thank you for that. So things have changed. I mean, there's time has changed, and growth has changed, and finding balance will change, and
Mhm.
so those are good messages. But in terms of change. It also seems that there's been an increase in the prevalence of mental health in your patient population. So I mean, the mental health has really increased, especially I've seen in Black men, um, more maybe since the pandemic, and in many areas, the children included. So how is that impacting your practice? More patients with presenting with more mental health conditions. Um, what's happening
Well,
with that?
so I would say from my perspective, and I think Madeline can add more things to this because she's got the embedded BH, integrated BH model in her clinic. We
Okay.
have it too, but for some reason we just don't have enough behavioral therapists and psychiatrists to really handle the numbers of people. And I think that's the crux of the problem. There's just not enough for the communities. There are not enough people to refer to. And as primary care, we can handle depression, anxiety, ADHD. When you get into, suicidality and you get into schizophrenia, I know the medicines that are used for
Mm-hmm.
that. I know if someone comes in on these medications, I know why they're on them, but I'm not in a good position probably to be the one starting them and monitoring them and handling any issues that come up while they're on these medications.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's just not enough people being trained and out there in the field to be able, like for me to give someone a list that's not, I won't say suicidal because we'll handle that in a different way, but somebody who's fairly depressed or fairly anxious, it's impairing their daily living, their work life, their personal life. If I have to give them a list of who's taking new patients and it's on them to call, that's a sad situation because we make referrals for every other specialty, but there's nobody to refer to in my community directly for psychiatric care and behavioral care. We have a one behavioral health person in each of our centers, but they've got a waiting list of two,
Exactly.
maybe 3 months, and it's not enough. I don't, what would you add to that, Madeline?
Exactly.
That's a pretty that's it's a pretty fair assessment that their psychiatry, especially child psychiatry, is just a very undersubscribed
Mhm.
um, specialty right now, and I just don't think they have enough residency spots. I don't know what it is, but every community is hurting. We do have a couple of things that we have at our disposal. And so one thing is Milwaukee as a major metropolitan area, we do have several mental health clinics that do telehealth for their prescribing, which isn't ideal, but it's better than having nobody. But I will tell you that for family members, I had my child went through some pretty major mental health stuff, and it was months to get in with a psychiatrist. And it's like, look, that's dangerous.
Mhm.
And so I made sure that she established with a psychiatrist, even though she wasn't in crisis at the time. It's like, we're not waiting. You're going to be an established patient next time something goes down.
Yep.
So you got to be able to get in. And I'm a family doctor,
Right.
and so like I feel like with all of the levers and stuff that I can pull and all the knowledge I have, it was still an incredibly difficult experience. I'm lucky at my clinic that we have two prescribers. They're both nurse practitioners, and then we have behavioral health consultants. And so I spend a little less time handling the mental health crises as they walk in, and I can do a warm handoff, and so that is a real privilege. But we don't know how long that's going to last because of the whole payer side of things. It's expensive,
Mm.
and as we know, there are certain people in our federal government, especially, who don't believe in um, helping the people. So
Yeah.
and so if that all dries up, then we're going to go back to the bad old days, which were very, very bad.
Very,
So,
very bad. And things are going to get very, very worse. Chantel,
Hmm.
your take on that.
but I can tell you, having behavioral health at my elbow, and also just having them around to talk to, just as friends and colleagues,
Mhm.
is that makes for a much healthier clinic.
Yeah.
And what we actually need in my clinics is some mediated conversations with the administration with us. Use with our, and I'm serious about that. We could really use that because
Mhm.
there's a lot of disordered conversations, toxic work environment stuff that can happen very easily in a medical clinic.
Very easily. And they need more of us around. Like, maybe I
I
need to
think
be
there's
licensed in more states.
yeah.
Chantel, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think the shortage, I mean, both in like psychiatry and in therapists is like pretty big here too in California. I also think though that a lot of mental health providers unfortunately are taking advantage of patients a little bit. In the fact that they can open up privately and like
Mm.
choose huge fees and stuff like that. I'm having a lot of patients having a hard time continuing to get their meds and just like having to pay $300 every visit, even if they have insurance. So I think that's the other part of it. Even though we might have some providers, they're also charging huge fees because they've gone private and don't want to accept insurance. So I think that's another challenge. And that actually adds into, I think, the primary care burden though, because as a primary care doctor, this person's supposed to be on this medication. They've been feeling essentially stable on it. It's not something that I monitor. I might not be asking the correct questions or know the correct labs or the correct things
Right.
obtain annually to make sure that they're safe on this drug. But I also don't want them to stop it and then they go into a withdrawal or have other issues either. So I think that's where the challenge in primary care comes too. Like, I know what could happen if I stop this abruptly, but then I can't get them in for 3 months, or they can't afford this psychiatrist that's charging $300 every visit. So I think that adds a little bit burden on the primary care side too, which is hard.
That's the same scenario with pain management. It's
Hmm.
just awful, awful.
Mhm.
And then you end up in a bind as the primary care when the patient's like, I can't afford to go and give that person all of this cash and then pay out of pocket for the drug screen that they want. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to be doing that either. So
Yeah.
it's a really tough situation.
So it sounds like there's a lot of rewards, but there's also a lot of restraints in the challenges as well, and a lot of shifts and changes and institutional types of um, difficulties that may occur within and around the whole arena of healthcare and within your institutions. So let's move it to where Dr. Tully was taking us a little while ago into burnout. So what is your view on primary care burnout? Because it seems like it's decreasing in numbers and family. I'm not sure about family care physicians if that's also decreasing in numbers. But what's your view on primary care burnout? Dr. Tully, you want to start with that?
One of the characteristics of burnout is when you see folks who are, you really just the empathy starts to really suffer first. And that's tough. And especially, I really try to watch the language that I use when I'm talking about the patients and make sure that I'm using not just respectful, but empathetic language because we're hearing about pain all the time. And I think as human beings, we have to protect ourselves. We can't feel every jab of the patient's pain, but we should also really guard against being callous, or um, just not believing, just not showing any empathy, so I think that that's something that I on in myself in my heart, to stay open to what the patients say, but I don't, you can't let it all the way in all the time, but you have to watch for that, and then also just the sense of it's what we call it's like climbing a mountain of paper every day. It's like you're just scrabbling your way, and then you get to the top, and then another day comes, and it's like that's your whole. You can't look at it like something like a task that's one day going to be completed because it's not. It's like the ocean. It goes in, it goes out. It goes in, it goes out,
Yeah.
and you have to, and so if you find that that's just too much of a burden, or and then when you look at it, death comes for us all.
Mm.
We have to have some kind of, and we have to have a comfort level with the fact that nobody gets out of this alive, and that patients are living a whole life that we have a tiny little sliver of that hopefully we can make a positive impact. But they're going to do what they're going to do. Death comes for everybody. I'm not here to advance it. I'm here to do what I can. But I have to be very understanding of the fact that my level of control in this situation is minimal. I
Yeah.
can come and do everything that I can, but it is not under my control.
So
I
what's
think
Oh, go ahead. Who's that?
I was just going to say that I think the part that is within our control, and I'm sure that all of us are doing, is that um, patients know that too, to a large degree, and kind of putting yourself in their shoes and letting them know, listen, death is coming for all of us. Maybe you don't say it that way, but holding their hand and saying, you're not in this alone. And sadly, there are some people that are in it alone. We all have had the patient where they really don't have family or they really don't have loved ones. Maybe there's estrangement. Maybe they just really don't have family. And just knowing that somebody else cares about you makes a big difference in your quality of life. It helps you to accept things that are really difficult to accept. And I think that's a privileged position we find ourselves in. And the other thing about burnout is I seriously think that burnout is to some extent our profession has to help with this, but to a very large extent, we also have to take personal responsibility and whatever it is that is going to be meaningful to us and ways that we can come up with on our own to make our burnout not happen at the rate that it might be happening or what have you. Finding ways. My happiest time in practice was when I had a mix of academic, clinical care, and teaching because it broke up my personality is that I want to be doing different things all the time. I don't want to do the same thing every single day. That just drives me absolutely crazy. So now what I have to do is I involve myself with CVAMS. I go here, I go there, I dabble here, I dabble there. And maybe it looks like I don't know what I want to do. And maybe it makes me look chaotic, but I do it because it keeps me from getting burned out. When I came back from Cape Verde, Selena, I was the happiest I've been since I've been at this job
Wow.
because I feel like I had that break and it shifted my viewpoint, my worldview a little bit. Not that I hadn't been to Cape Verde before, not that I hadn't been to countries before where I've done medical work. It wasn't that, it's that just having that community and having that input and having that time that we spent together
Mm.
took a little bit of the burden of the routine off
That's
of my shoulders. It
that's
really made a big difference. And I feel that this is something that I'll do even after I'm done practicing. I want to be able to spend more time doing that because it feeds my soul.
hmm
And I think on an individual level, we all have to identify things that will feed our soul,
exactly.
whatever
Feed your
that might
yeah, and
be.
to feed your career soul. So a few years ago, I decided I needed to figure out a way to kind of right size my week. And I realized that if I took away the special projects that I do, and I just wanted to just do more of just the clinic work and not do, the teaching that I do and not do the projects that I do and not do these. Because every year I've done doing some kind of substantive, like I did a healthcare collaborative against sex trafficking, which actually to the people I was in my book club with today are from that group.
Wow.
I have done a hypertension and diabetes, group visit. I've done, I teach students throughout the year as a community teacher.
Mhm.
If I were to scale back from that, and I still see newborns, I go to the hospital to see newborns. But my newest patient was born at midnight
Wow.
today,
hmm
and it's like, yeah, it does lead to doing more stuff. But if I were to cut all of that out and just do the clinic day to day, I would burn out so fast
hmm
because I get bored.
Yep.
And it's like I
Yes.
can't and just like you, I think Lila and I, we have that family practice brain. I did not go into this to see the same thing twice. It's like
Yep.
any patient I see any day can be anything I ever learned in medicine. It
Yep.
could be something that's going to make me go to the books and learn something new. Like that is where I get a lot of joy. And so finding that out about yourself is very, very important to say what's going to feed you in your career. And also it is back to CVMS too, like doing the substantial work. That yeah, it's like for jazz musicians. We're there, we play jazz all day, like the Motown people. They're recording Motown all day. And then what did they do at night? They went to the club and they played for the dancers, the exotic dancers all night.
hmm
So, so maybe not that much, but it does feed the soul. So you have to
Right.
figure out what your soul is telling you to do.
Chantel, how you feeling about that?
I'm just completely opposite. I'm like, that's why you guys don't see me in any of the CVMS meetings because no, for me, anything that's like still work related outside of work for me, the moment I leave that office, that's how I manage burnout. It's like nothing exists. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about medicine. Like I'm doing something completely different. So I'm actually completely the opposite. And you're right. It's everybody's just totally different in
Mhm.
how they feel. Um, and so, yeah, I'm not involved in a lot of extracurricular stuff that would be medically related.
And it
So
doesn't have to be.
yeah,
Right. And you're also just in year four too.
Exactly.
yeah.
You're
Exactly.
still treading water some.
And
At
you're
year four, I was still delivering babies. I was going everywhere 6 times, 10 times a bit. Like I had to scale back from the delivering babies part because that was not working after a while. But yeah, so I get it though, and and your soul is telling you what it needs, and so keep finding that, keep going for that,
exactly.
and if it doesn't give you joy, you want to find a way to pivot away from whatever that is.
I think
Exactly.
it helps me enjoy work when I don't do anything that's medically related outside of work. I enjoy like the time that I am there actually, but I would say like something that I can't control though that I never saw coming that creates burnout was that I always knew I would be judged by my peers or if I got like a lawsuit, if something a bad case happened, I would be reported and like judged by somebody that could actually look at my case and figure out where I went wrong. I always knew that. Of course, that's the risk you take with being we're in a high profession of making sure everything goes right. We're handling people's lives, but I never knew that people that had no medical degree would be able to devour me online. And
Mm,
that was something I never ever knew would be part of medicine and does create burnout. And I cannot control that other than not reading reviews. But I really appreciate feedback. So I would like to read them. But it's becoming to the point where it's things that people are upset about that they have no knowledge on, about patient reviews in particular, that you kind of gotta not read it because it
yeah,
really drives you insanity. And I never knew that a patient that had no idea why I picked the treatment I picked, and I would actually write about the treatment, but they could literally write a review on me on Google, Yelp, and really like, take my character away. Like
right.
it's appalling to me. I can go on a date tomorrow and meet a nice guy, and he could look me up on Yelp and be like, "Oh my gosh, she's like that," and not
Yeah.
even understand the clinical context in that Yelp review, and that really crushes me.
Yeah, I've been in that position before, Chantal, and it's interesting that it's only ever happened at one place that I worked. And I can't understand the reasons for it, but I remember it consuming a fair amount of my mental bandwidth.
Hmm.
And I had to make the decision not to look at those things, um, because happy patients don't take the time to go online,
Nice.
typically. Also, if you go online to complain about something, what kind of person are you, you know? So I kind of had to take a step back and not, it's so hard to say it and it's so hard to believe it internally. You can't take it personally. There's something going on with that person. It's them, not you.
Oh, true.
Try not
You're
to
an
read
easy
them.
target. You're an
Yeah.
easy target,
And
you know.
your next job, you may never get another. I don't think if I went online right now, I would find one negative, not, and I'm not a different person. I'm not a different doctor. I don't do things that much differently than I did 10 years ago. But I don't get those kinds of things anymore. So I think it might have a lot to do with where you are, the type of practice you're in, and do not internalize any of that.
Yeah, yeah. All the other physicians get them. They're like, yeah, you take it too personally, and I'm like, I know because it's like I don't get it. Like,
They don't know you. They don't
They
know
don't
you.
know you.
They don't know you. And so yeah, so it's I would say that is there somebody in your organization that does like the media marketing, social media stuff, or somebody that can kind of read them for you and maybe give you a synopsis, or something? Because it's I don't I mean I don't have much. I mean I am on social media, but I have a no bad news policy.
What
If
does
it's
that
bad, I don't
consist
want it.
of?
I just I don't deal with it,
Mm.
you know.
But
Um, and also I feel somewhat in a community health center that I think the patient
They
there's
don't
a
mess with
there
that.
yeah, there's a lot less there's also a lot less of that like digital native stuff going on, I think, in my population. Half of them can't figure out my chart and they're just not of a generation from the older patients especially to be living online. Whereas I feel like in your generation, Chantel, that's definitely
that,
90% or more
yeah.
online. And but if you think that same person's probably writing ridiculous Yelp reviews of everything, and they're probably
no, yeah, yeah.
yes.
The
They're,
moment
they're
we've gotten there's they've been like dismissed from the clinic. I think like the thing is it's like the fact that they can it's like a defamation of character though.
Right.
That's what bothers
also,
me. But
yeah, but I hope you can just put it in a perspective of that this is something that every professional,
yeah,
is dealing with, and that if somebody is going to read that, and then if and that affects them going on a date review, you probably dodged a bullet there. So, you know,
What's
I'm so sorry that
interesting,
she's had to deal with that.
yeah, but
what's
I'm sorry that happened to you, and it's not fair. Um,
okay, not fair. But
Not
what's
fair.
interesting is that they have advanced her to the lead doctor. So whatever they know that she's a good doctor, and these
Hmm.
patients who are writing these things are what you're saying is absolutely true. And just recently, she's been advanced to the lead doctor in the clinic.
Mm.
So
yeah. I mean the reviews
that's
are
that
far
tells the true story.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean everybody's getting their reviews. I'm not sold, like I'm not the only one,
Right.
but like I think I just take them to a different. If they
Yeah,
want,
because you
are
work
really
hard.
passionate about patient care, and
Right.
like I really, if I'm telling you you don't need an antibiotic, or if I'm telling you you need one, for like I'm really genuinely like trying to save your life. Like I'm not. So when people take it
Yeah.
the wrong way, it
Yeah.
causes.
I'm actually quite proud of my experience where someone complained to me to Medicaid in Wisconsin because I was treating a relative of theirs with certain medication and they demanded the same medication. I didn't give it to them.
Hmm.
And the board was like, well, we got this complaint. And I'm like, well, let's look at the chart. And they're like, yeah, it looks pretty spurious. And I'm like, hey, look that up online. She didn't save the person who was demanding medications.
Right.
I don't feel bad about that. So yeah, so but it's part of being out there, and I think that if I didn't have a healthy way of managing the fact that I'm a human and that I do make mistakes and I rely on my team every day. I do not, and they catch little errors and things all the time. And it's usually clerical type errors. There's a lot of stuff that the whole team needs to do to give this quality care. Um, but I need to work with that in myself and be able to forgive myself and move on and learn more and move on and the things that are really, worth it. And we have to be resilient that way to
Yeah.
stay in this position, in this profession. And there are times, I mean, one of the reasons why I stepped back from doing OB is because the learning was going very quickly. It's like the practice of OB and the practice of prenatal care was really moving forward, and there's always new tests and new recommendations for what goes on in prenatal care. And I realized that I was either going to do more OB or get out of OB.
Yeah.
And also, I had never, and thank God, I never had a bad baby. I never had a bad, outcome in my years that I was doing it. But I also knew the statistics enough that I'm like, you know what? I can feel that I want to say goodbye on a high note. I didn't want to have the thing happen to
Yeah.
me or in my practice that was going to sour me on OB. And so after 4 years, I decided that I just did not have that bandwidth to continue. And so that's the other thing, figuring out how you want to practice and what you want to do. And OB is just really like, and any little specialty is going to have things, and we have to continue to take these tests. I'm on the 3 month thing now, where I have to take every 3 months. I have to take all these quizzes to stay up to date in family practice.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. We're running out of time, and I have so many more questions, but this was excellent. It was what we needed to hear. And you know that burnout is usually systemic, right? And compassion fatigue is the other part of who we are because we're very compassionate in what we do. And we also have a lot of empathy. So we have to watch out for those two sources as well because that causes the compassion fatigue. And the burnout is from the workload, the work situation, the environment. So, so I want to close out, and I'd just like you to share maybe, one thing that you would do in your self-care plan for yourself. So, I mean, I know your fun thing, and your fun thing is probably one of the things that you put in your self-care plan. So now you give me a second fun thing but that's part of your care plan that keeps you kind of grounded. What do you do to keep you grounded? And what would you tell one of your colleagues who you're feeling is having some compassion fatigue or burnout? How about you,
I have time.
Dr. Blake? You want to start?
Let Chantel start. Yeah.
Oh, Chantal, I'm sorry.
Oh no, so I was just gonna say like for me, I didn't notice this, but like keeping a schedule, like for my own health, like making sure I keep up with that. So now in the morning, always do my in basket for 30 minutes, but now I like incorporated the gym into that and it's been steady, and now it feels really good to do that before work. So I think like just making something that will take care of your health a regular part of
Mhm.
your life will be super rewarding.
Mhm.
So I think that's something for me that I've really enjoyed.
So travel and doing something that's health worthy for yourself. Very good,
Mhm.
Chantal. Dr. Blake?
I would say, and I'm guilty of not having done this a lot recently, but there was a long time during my career that I did
Your your
regular
your
meditation.
your voice has gotten to be a little different. I don't know what happened
How
there.
about now?
It's kind of
Still,
sounds like it's
Still,
a little
I don't know,
hoarse.
you're tap your microphone.
I'm just
Hmm.
going to change
There you
microphones
go. There you
altogether.
go.
Is it
That
better
was better.
now?
Nope.
Not better or better?
Now
That's
it's
better.
better. Now
That's
it's
Okay,
better.
all right. So I would say meditation make a huge difference. And if you're
no,
doing it,
it's not good. Go
all
back.
right, I'm going to let Madeline go and then I'll speak. I'll
No,
fix
Oh,
my
you
now
just said
that's
now
better.
you
Now
sounded
it's
fine.
That
fine.
was better.
was better.
Now it goes back again. It's going
No.
back.
Anyhow, how about now?
Okay, that's
Oh,
good.
Now,
All
Just
right.
go with
shocking.
that.
So, meditation, I think super important. The gym, yes, some type of physical activity because for many, many reasons we don't have time to talk about. I think another important aspect is really just having that, making time, even if it's not during meditation, to connect with yourself and what you're feeling.
Mhm.
Journaling is a really good way to do that because
Wait.
we're with our thoughts all day long, right? They say no matter where you go, there you are. But journaling about what's going on in your heart and in your mind can really help you come to some conclusions that you might not otherwise come to. Like, this ain't right. This ain't working for me, right? You might read your journal for the past 2, 3 months and say, you know what, every day I'm not happy doing what I'm doing.
Hmm.
Nowadays, this kind of goes along with what you were saying, Madeline, where people stay 4 or 5 years or 3 or 4 years at a job. Nowadays, um, if what you're doing in medicine or whatever career you're in, if it's not working for you, it should not be a prison. You should evaluate internally what's bringing you joy. If that job is not bringing you joy and you can't make it bring you joy by doing some different things or tweaking it a little bit, you got to move on. And so, really knowing what's going on inside your heart and your mind and listening to it. We take for so much of our training, we're taught to put your head down, learn, take all the abuse that comes your way because that's how it's always been done, and just keep moving. But once you get out of residency, you know what? It's your life. And when you have a family, you've got to make decisions that include your family and your quality of life and your health and all these other things. And sometimes you got to cut loose, you got to cut bait and do something different. So just having an open mind about where you want to be and what kind of things you want to be doing that feed you, I think is the only way to handle it.
Yep, absolutely. Very good answers, Dr. Tully.
And then I had to piggyback on that too, being receptive and letting your patients teach you,
Mhm.
receiving those all those little compliments that you get every day. Not to get a huge ego from it, but to understand that this is a sincere thing that you're helping them and they're grateful for it, and to just receive that. That's a good thing. And let your patients in just a little bit. We need very strong boundaries, but my patients know that I have kids, and it's one thing that as you get further in practice, you have to watch that because we can't spend the entire time updating each other on our social lives. We do need to talk about your health, but those are the things that feed you. That relationship, it can only take a moment, but to bring something out. And I sincerely am my patients' biggest fan. And
Mm.
I will tell them, like, I am your fan. I know that you can do this. When they come in and their blood pressure's better, my thing is a high five. I do high fives with my patients, and they love the little high fives. And to have a little thing that you do to acknowledge that they had somewhere else that they could be during that time. They had other
Sure.
plans. They could very easily not come in. So just for them walking through your door, that is something I really am sincerely appreciative of. So working on that sincerity and the gratitude is always good. But also, I stop when my brain is done. I tell them my decider is done. When I cannot make another good decision today, I have to be done, even if I wish I had a few more, a few more hours in me or whatever to make everything right. But I'd much rather come back to something later when I'm in a better mindset than
Right.
push myself through because I feel like for myself that would definitely lead to burnout. So I'd rather just say if my decider is done for the day, I have to just put it down, either take a break or just come back at it the next day. And that's a tough one, especially when there's more and more that's being asked of us,
Mhm.
and you feel like you're so efficient. But at some point, we have to acknowledge the fact that we are human, and we need to,
Right.
we need to take a little time off and and also scheduling vacations and things. Just throw a few days onto your calendar
Hmm.
that are just off days that when they come up, you're surprised. And they're like, "What? I don't have a schedule on Wednesday." It's like, "Oh, I took that day off." Well, then you take Wednesday off and you stay away from the job so that you can come back being feel somewhat fed. So that's a lot, but that is I've been working on it a long time. I have a lot of little tricks and mottos and things.
Absolutely. You have to take care of self. That's number one. And gratitude is a really another good psychological, emotional connector. If you can feel it, it takes away a lot of what you tend to carry because we'll carry the negative with us when there's 50 others who have been so gratifying that we just have missed that mark. So
Mhm.
gratitude is a very important piece of this as well. Well, thank you.
Might take 100 positives to
Yeah,
balance that
well,
negative, but
well,
I'll bet you there's 100 positives out there for you, Chantel.
and most definitely. I know that she's called and she's have saved lives that were about to get destroyed. But I'm not here to brag about my daughter, but I'm very proud of her. It's very important that we feel, right? We have to feel, and we have to set boundaries on those feelings as well. And we have to care, but we can't have to overcare. And we have to do our work and we have to do it well. And when we find it's time that our decider has said, time to stop, we need to listen to our decider so we
Mhm.
don't make it go in the wrong direction. So lots of good points here. Travel, exercise, pay attention to yourself. And the most important thing of all is just find love. Find a place of love. Sit in
Yeah.
a little patch of love. Even if it's in a patch of in the wilderness somewhere. Sit in a little patch in a garden watching the seed grow. Sit in a patch of love. That's most important. While you're riding on
Watching the kombucha babies.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'm going to say to you, the audience who's out there watching this amazing conversations we've had today with the primary care professionals here, that I hope you found them both enriching and thought-provoking. And stay tuned for episode 8, and it will be Impact on Stress and Health Care with myself, Dr. Selena, and Dr. Ozilda James, Jennifer Gruby, and that'll be hosted by Carlos Sumida. And part 2 of that will be with Dr. Isaiah Rodriguez, who's in Thailand right now, and we'll be talking about the whole body care, and that will be hosted by me, Dr. Selena. So thank you. It was wonderful,
Um,
great energy, and thank you for making so much, helping so many others to think things through for themselves. And for you, don't forget to follow us on what are we on Spotify and YouTube, and and we can find us at CVAMS Health Dialogues at gmail.com on YouTube and email. So thank you. Ciao, obrigada.
Wow.
Ciao,
Proud
ciao.
Obrigada.
of you. Love all
Ciao,
of you.
ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Love